keep it short, and I would say if during the presentation you have questions, feel free to interrupt me and we'll get things clarified. Here.
I got extras.
Oh, you got it. Good. Okay. So I'm here to describe kind of this is to present the results of our study that the last time I was here we talked about. So we're going to describe interior flooding, kind of show some maps of those interior floodplains, look at some of the measures we looked at to try and solve that flooding and mitigate the potential flooding and the cost, and then where we arrived at and working with city staff on the alternatives. So a little background, just to go back, in 2011-2012, the levee improvement project was done. That allowed us in 2013 to certify the levee to FEMA, and then in 2014 we received that accreditation. So basically what that does is that says, yes, the levee is effective, FEMA recognizes it, so without that, many of your homes, in other words, it's fairly close to those that flooded, during the flood would be in the floodplain. So by that accreditation, we are now, have the levee as being effective on the maps that will be coming out. So FEMA in late 2016 or early 2017 will be coming out with those new floodplain maps. So that'll show the river staying on the river side of the levee where it's supposed to be, but it'll show an interior drainage area on the inside of the levee, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. And that interior affects all of your levees, A and B, C and D. So the last time I was here, the city commissioned Barr and Otomo Engineering to survey all the homes that were even close to being affected, and there's a lot of homes, and we'll show that, and then develop alternatives to address that. So here's just a little sketch kind of showing you, interior drainage. So as I said, it's the flooding that occurs on what's supposed to be the dry or protected side of the levee. It can happen with a very large storm when the gates are open. You can get some water ponding, on the right side there where it says interior conditions. But in the city's case, and in most cases, your critical happens when you've got flooding on either Rush Creek or Root River, you've closed the gates, and now you get some rainfall that accumulates on there, and the pumps try and keep up with the rain as it's coming in, and you can also get some seepage underneath. So all this evaluation is based on that and that kind of basic sketch right there.
And what type of rain flow were they looking at? 100-year flood, 500-year flood?
Yeah, it's pretty close to the 100-year flood. What we do is we look at what's called concurrent events. So you look at the probability that the river is going to be flooded and you're going to get a rainfall event. So it reduces it down a little bit from the 100-year. There's kind of, the Corps of Engineers has guidelines that you follow in kind of determining what that rainfall is for that concurrent event. In a small watershed like Rush Creek, it's likely that the event that causes the flooding of the river is also a heavy rainfall that's going to cause a lot of rainfall within the levee. On the Root River, it's more likely to be a longer term or a snowmelt event.
Right. So
you may not get that huge snowmelt event and then get a huge 100-year rainfall, which is more of a July event on that. So it takes into account that. So as I said, the FEMA maps coming out in late 2016, early 2017 will show this new interior floodplain. And the implications are that the structures that are shown in that interior floodplain that have a federally backed mortgage will have to purchase flood insurance. And over the next 4 years, those rates are going up. I believe it's about 25% a year to the actuarial rate. So previously they were subsidized through the NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program. So when we look at some of the process we used to identify these interior flood levels was we did hydrologic modeling. Otomo then went out and surveyed all the homes that we thought were close to those. The blue line represents that interior floodplain. So there were a lot of homes that the data we had, we couldn't confirm whether they were in or not. We suspected that most of them wouldn't be in, but we wanted to survey them just to verify that. So that survey was done. We surveyed 82 structures, and 13 are now kind of what we would call affected by the floodplain. So that's what we're focusing on, is those 13 structures. So the good news is, I know there was concern when we were here, wow, that's a lot of homes, I hope they're not on there, and they aren't. There's not too many affected. So now we're looking at, then we looked at mitigating or looking at alternatives to mitigate some of the flood problems, and then we selected that. And the note is that the survey information that you have could be used by the homeowner in case the bank does question their thing. Those elevations could be put on an elevation certificate, and will help the homeowners out if that's the case.
Do you have that data?
Oldham has it. I believe we have a copy of it too.
Because, in a couple of years, we may not find Dean,
Yeah.
maybe on the beach someplace.
Yeah,
so,
that's something we could pass and make sure that you get that information.
Yeah, we need someone to have that information
Yes.
that can write those certificates up.
Okay. So then we'll look at, kind of focus on some areas where the interior flood level, or interior floodplain is. First one is over by the fertilizer plant. So we see some trailer homes there and kind of the plant itself. These trailer homes, although the first floor is above the flood level, they would be surrounded by floodwaters. So FEMA interprets that as being within the floodplain, because the lowest ground adjacent to that structure is not above the flood level. That's how they make that guideline. So the first floor could be up, 2 feet above that flood level, but if the ground around it isn't, that's how they make that determination. And then the other area is some of these buildings as part of the fertilizer plant.
So even if it never gets onto the floor, it's considered in the floodplain?
Right.
Move back a little bit,
Yes.
on this side of the fertilizer plant in that channel where it shows the blue,
Yeah.
digging that ditch deeper,
We'll get to mitigation after a
Yeah.
bit.
okay.
Just let Art run through
Yeah.
the slides.
We'll look at, when we get to the mitigation, that'll work. Then if we look over kind of on the east side, the Levy B area, wastewater treatment plant is here, kind of downtown areas up here. All the yellow ones were surveyed and found to not be in that floodplain. There's 3 here that would be affected by that floodplain, in that flood level. Looking on the north side of Rush Creek, Levy C, there's 2 homes that would be affected. Levy D, there's 1 home. That's the north part of Levy D, and here's the south part. So generally, pretty good news, at least for single-family residents. So then we started looking at, how do we mitigate where we do have homes that are within, because I'll jump down to the goal here. The goal was to have no single-family homes affected by the flooding. One option is to divert the watershed away. If you don't have as much water draining to your pump stations, the flood levels won't get as high. You could excavate where the waters are stored to increase the flood storage. You could increase the pumping capacity by either changing your existing pump stations, adding a new permanent pump station, or adding a portable pumps. The other would be non-structural measures. If you've got an individual structure, your lowest benefit cost ratio might be, or your best benefit cost ratio might be just dealing with that structure itself. Okay, so then Levy AB, this is the kind of the one around downtown area. The alternatives we considered were a new portable, or a new permanent pump station, improving or replacing the existing pump station, increasing the ponding, and a larger portable pump. So we looked at the cost for those range of items, and the price on the low end was $395,000. The price on the high end with some of the permanent pump stations was about $2.5 million. So quite a range there.